Hello everyone, this is part 9 of What If Naruto Locked Eyes with His Future Wife, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives Ino ran away from the entrance of the locker room with her heart in hand, shattered into million of pieces. She knew something was going on, but she didn't want to believe he was that weak to give in to Sakura. She could never forget the sight of the scene, especially the heartless smile Sakura gave her. As the blonde ran, she made a sharp turn around the corner and hit someone walking the same direction. She looked up to see the blue-haired raven, Sasuke, standing in front of her with a serious look on her face. Ino tried to wipe the tears that were flowing freely down her face, but it was too late. "What's wrong?" Sasuke asked with no hint of concern in his voice. The raven looked deep into her blue orb and knew something was wrong with her from the tint of red in her eyes, more tears rolling down her cheeks. "Nothing, can I just go?" Ino made her way around Sasuke quick before he took hold of her arm. "Sasuke, please." Ino tried to sound casual, but her voice was shaky. When she knew he wasn't releasing her, she let her guard down. "What happened?" Sasuke asked, but to Ino it sounded more as an order than a question. Just then Sasuke noticed Naruto running out the locker room with Sakura right behind her. "Oh." Sasuke narrowed his eyes at the two who were approaching them. "Ino, let me explain." "Get off me," Ino shouted, pushing him back against Sakura. Ino glared her eyes at Sakura and never saw it coming when her hand came up and in one quick swift move, Ino's hand connected with her face. Sakura stepped back as she cried out in pain, holding her face with her hands. "Come on Sasuke." Ino thought getting even with Naruto was the best thing there was. Sakura looked at Ino as if she had three heads while Naruto tried to get Ino, who was now walking away with Sasuke's arm around her waist. "You heard her, blondes," Sasuke yelled, pushing Naruto back into Sakura. Naruto was about to throw a fist when Ino stepped in front of both males. Naruto stood in place with a look of confusion on his face. "Told you. Let's go Sasuke." Ino wiped the last two tears in her eyes and stormed up the hallway with Sasuke in hand. She realized the rest of the day was going to be hell, so instead of going on with it, she thought of something else. "You want to leave school now? Ditch. Whatever." Sasuke shrugged and rolled his eyes, opening the nearest exit door he could and out into the fresh air with Ino beside him. A couple of minutes went by and he had to ask, "So what happened with Blondie and Sakura?" Sasuke asked with still no hint of curiosity in his voice. "Just forget it. Where do you want to go?" Ino totally forgot, even thought she was hurt. Sasuke was still the same jerk and nothing could change that. She wished she would have gave thought to this idea before, she wouldn't have done it. "My house," Sasuke thought quickly, already thinking of his next move on her. Sasuke led the way to his house where it was nowhere near her house. It was dark gray with a small porch on the front, still fancy looking with no cars in the parking lot. Sasuke, I don't think I should go in." Ino tried to not let her body take control, but as soon as Sasuke opened up the front of his door, she quickly went in and admired the beautiful decor around the house. "Sit," Sasuke told her. She did as he said and sat on his couch near the door. Ino watched Sasuke run over to the kitchen where she heard pots and pans being moved around the cabinets. He came back around the wall and made his way over to the couch right across from where Ino was sitting. "So what really happened?" he asked, this time with a bit of curiosity in his words. Ino frowned, biting her bottom lip, trying to hold back the tears that were forcing themselves out. Too late. Ino's eyes became more watery and in under seconds, her face was wet in tears rolling down her cheeks. Found Sakura doing something to him? Ino never noticed Sasuke making his way around the wooden table and sat next to her on the couch, wrapping her arm around her shoulder. Trying hard to make the sinister smile wipe off his face. "Listen." Sasuke moved closer, lifting her chin to meet his gaze. "You need better. I could be." Sasuke didn't have time to finish when Ino forced her lips to connect with his. Sasuke, being the person he is, didn't stop it. He continued it and forced his wet tongue inside her mouth. Around the streets. He had ran out of the school behind them, trying to explain to Ino it was an accident, but he had lost sight of both the blonde and the raven. I'm sorry, Ino. Naruto's face was paralyzed with sorrow as he ran down the sidewalks of Konoha, looking for what was his. An hour passed and nothing. Naruto had lost hope of finding Ino and Sasuke. Panting and breathing hard, he stopped and sat on a big heavy rock near a park. Mother Nature must have seen what was happening due to the weather. The clouds began to form cloudy as it covered the shiny yellow sun. A loud thunder noise cracked the air in half, echoing all around Konoha. Where are you, Ino? Naruto wiped the sweat off his forehead with his gym shirt. Just like Sasuke and Ino, he too didn't change. With a small bit of hope, Naruto continued running down the sidewalk of the streets. To make matters worse, small raindrops began trickling down on him. Ino woke up from a deep sleep, feeling her arm around her waist. She looked over and next to her on the bed laid Sasuke fast asleep, N in the F. Oh my god, Ino gasped, lifting the covers off her body and looking underneath trying to remember her actions with him. Ino laid her head back on the blue pillow that belonged to what seemed Sasuke's bed. Her memory started kicking in slowly as she remembered what had happened and the reason she was here in the first place. Regret was the only thing she was feeling. Regret. She couldn't believe it. She didn't want to believe it. She had to believe it, thought. It did happen. She let herself get to that point. All she wanted to feel was revenge for what Naruto did to her, not like this. Not with him. Ino slid herself from his arm and began to gather her clothes up off the floor, sliding them on quickly trying not to wake the raven up. I am a whore. Ino's eyes became watery with tears as she crawled out the room, looking back at what she'd done. With that, Ino left Sasuke's house immediately. Outside was nothing better. She felt the hard rain drops fall on her like pining needles. It was either wait till the rain SD out and hope Sasuke wouldn't wake up in time or go home in the rain. She didn't really have much of an option. Naruto, Ino cried out slowly, looking down at the concrete sidewalk. Sure, Naruto had betrayed her, but it was Sakura's fault. She forced herself on him. In this situation, Ino forced herself on Sasuke. He never did anything but give her a great F. As Ino walked down the streets in the pouring rain, her blonde hair came down her and wet and wild. Why did I do this? Naruto sat on the bench at the edge of the sidewalk, feeling horrible for what Ino had to witness. Feeling like plain S. He thought over and over how to fix this problem, but there was no solution. He would have to face Ino. He doubted she still wanted to be with him after all of this. After all, who would? Ino cried harder with each slow step she took in the pouring rain, the sound of thunder blocking out her loud sobs and cries. She made her way around the best way she could when she started feeling guilty again. What had she done? Ino was torn between telling Naruto what she had done and on top of that, she wasn't even sure if she would forgive him if he asked for it. Where are you, Ino? He thought. Where are you, Naruto? She thought. Both blondes were in each other's minds. Intertwined between anger and sadness, both needed to be in each other's arms. Like it once used to be when they first started this connection. Now, it's nothing but a fading connection slowly disappearing. Ino cried herself until the rain took over her face, clearing her face from the dried tears and wetting her cheeks even more. Naruto's blonde hair drooped down his face, over his eyes, covering his sorrow on his face that read depression. Naruto's body shook a little at the sound of thunder hitting the air again, thinking it was Ino surprising him. He knew it was over between them, why bother? Naruto gathered the shattered pieces of his heart and headed on home in the bad weather. The rain had not allowed Ino to see where she was going, leading her down a different direction. Ino's eyes remained down on the sidewalk as she walked forward, not caring where she was heading, just as long as it would take her away from this pain she was in. I'm so freaking stupid. Naruto shook his head, walking forward on the sidewalk as well, not caring where it was taking him. The rain hit his back, spiking his skin at the hard drop of the raindrops. He felt as if he deserved the pain he was enduring. All things were looking worse when all of a sudden, trough the noise of the hitting rain, the pounding thunder, he heard footsteps coming ahead of him. Ino heard footsteps coming from in front of her. She was petrified at first of the thoughts of someone trying to get her in the condition she was in. But no, standing in front of her no more than 10 inches away, was Naruto frozen up, looking back at her in what looked like teary eyes. The rain must have been the reason for that look. He looked at her as if she had left his life for years and this was this reunion. Both their hearts beated rapidly, almost jumping out the chests as their eyes locked in a stare. Naruto took a step forward, Ino took a step back, afraid of even getting close to him. Ino turned around before he took another step and ran back to who knows where she was going. The rain hit her face harder as she ran back, Naruto right behind her. Ino! Naruto yelled, "Trough all the thunder." He grabbed her arm and turned her around. Seeing the tears coming down her cheeks mixed with the raindrops. She tried to move and squirm away from her, but she had already managed to escape once. He wasn't going to allow that to happen now. Not like this. Ino, listen. I don't want to listen, please leave me alone. Ino cried out, yelling at the top of her lungs, feeling Naruto's arms wrap around her waist, moving her closer to him. Get off me, Naruto. Ino cried out again, feeling her strength lower as Naruto moved her closer to his chest. She gave in. Ino's body moved closer to Naruto as he wrapped his arms around her torso, massaging her back slowly with his wet hands. Ino, he whispered into her ear slowly, feeling the hotness of their body combine. Ino, I'm sorry. Naruto shut his eyes closed tight, tightening his arms when he felt her move back again. Ino. No, Naruto. Ino's pain was controlling her at the moment. Leave me alone, Naruto. Ino cried out, stepping back and pushing his arms off her body. I don't want you anymore, Naruto. How could you? Those words hit Naruto's heart like a knife. He looked down, letting his blonde hair droop back down over his eyes. By Naruto, Ino stepped back again, trying to dry her face, but every time she did, the rain would do it over again. Ino turned back around and started running like she was racing someone. The thoughts of what she caught Naruto doing had her in anger, in pain and agony. But the one thing she couldn't stop thinking about was what she had done with Sasuke. That could never truly be forgiven. Why did I do it? Ino thought as she ran with all her might in the opposite direction. She had just seen Naruto staring up at her. His arms around her, how she wanted to feel him on her, telling he it's okay, but she knew everything was far away from that. Ino had cheated on Naruto. Betrayed the guy she had strong feelings for. Now it was slowly decomposing as reality kicked in. Ino ran all the way home, barely finding it. As she ran inside the house, her parents were surprisingly there and looking at her in a state of shock. Please leave me alone, Ino shouted trough sobs as she ran up the stairs and headed towards her room where she spent the whole afternoon crying into her pillow and rethinking all the day's events. How could I done such a thing? The next couple of days Ino isolated herself from everyone else, keeping her distance, ignoring Tenten and Temari's phone calls, telling them she didn't want to talk to school. Sakura, she managed to keep on going through her day, glancing at her at times in the hallways in disgust at what she had done. Ino just didn't have the strength to say or do anything about it. It had been a week since she seen Naruto that day in the pouring rain. Now she was sitting at her desk in class when she heard the speakers go off at the top of the class, and that's when her day got worse. Hello Konoha, hi, this is Tsunade speaking. As much as I don't want this, we will be having a school prom soon since the school year is almost over. Thank God, Tsunade muttered the last words. This prom will take place 3 weeks from now. Enough time to get ready and plan things out carefully, and 2 days before graduation. Tsunade took another pause for the classes to cheer on, and stood at her desk with wondering thoughts. As 12th graders, I expect you to be on your best behavior the night of the prom so it could be a success. Speaking of which, graduation is coming up soon in less than a month. We'll talk about this later on the school year, Tsunade added, and the speakers went off while the classes started cheering her name to her plans. Great, Ino thought, and just then her idea sprung into her head. Wonder if he's going to go? Ino rested her chin on her palm, thinking how fun it would have been if she went to prom with Naruto and her friends. If was the key word, and she knew it wasn't going to happen. The rest of Ino's day was a blur. She really didn't care of what people did or said around her as long as she was out of it. Even though it had been an entire week of not seeing Naruto, he was still heartbroken of what he allowed to do and what she managed to let herself do. Anoa's out the school's main doors and near the parking lot when she felt someone wrap their arm around her waist. She looked up to see the raven smiling at her with something sinister behind it. Get off me, Sasuke. She pushed him away, but his grasp on her was tight. Oh, I see. You forgot what we did a couple of days ago. Sasuke narrowed his eyes with the same sinister smile attached to his lips. When are we going for round 2, Ino? Now that we're a couple, his words hit her like a speeding car, and here it was. Ino swung her free hand at his face, connecting it and rough with his cheek, the sound of slapping F echoing around them. We're not a couple, Sasuke, get that in your head. What we did was an accident and we can't talk. Who the F are you to be slapping me like that? Sasuke lost it and grabbed her by the shoulder and slammed her up against the nearby parked car. She tried to squirm away, but Sasuke kept his hands down on her shoulders. Listen, Ino, if you don't want me telling the school about what we did, I suggest you do as I say. Apologize for what you did now, Sasuke ordered in a rushed whisper. Get off me, Sasuke. Apologize, I said. Sasuke raised his voice, and now there was a large crowd around them with many eyes on him. Ino wished she would awake from this nightmare, but the more she struggled with his GS, the more she realized it was just a reality. I'm sore. Just when Ino was about to finish the order he commanded, when she saw a pair of hands grab Sasuke's shoulders and force him back. Ino closed her eyes but opened them back up when she felt Sasuke's grip lose her, and just like a fairy tale, her knight in shining armor was right there in the flash, forcing Sasuke down to the ground. Naruto, stop! Ino shouted, seeing Naruto throw the raven down to the ground and began to pound his stomacan chest with mighty stomps. Naruto looked back at Ino with rage at Sasuke. He looked back down at Sasuke and continued his attack by hopping on top of Sasuke and sending fists at his face. Ino watched in horror as the crowd around them cheered both fighters on. Sasuke got the upper hand when Naruto lost a bit of his energy. With that, Sasuke rolled Naruto over to his back and proceeded to punch Naruto rapidly in the face while his nose bled a little from Naruto's blows. Ino couldn't take it anymore, and she sure as hell wasn't going to stand here and watch Naruto take a beating even with the problems they were both having. Stop, Sasuke. Ino dropped her book and ran over to the commotion, where she jumped on Sasuke's back, wrapped her legs around his waist and took a chunk of his blue hair and pulling it with all her might. She heard him groaning in pain, but he didn't stop the blows he was giving Naruto. The pain was excruciating and he couldn't take it no more. He tried to get Ino off him but accidentally moved his elbow back, connecting with Ino's face. Everything stopped in an instant as the crowd watched Ino fall on her back, barely conscious of his devastating blow he had given her. Sasuke, not caring, looked back down at Naruto, who was looking up at him in daze. The blonde female opened up her eyes slowly to see Sasuke still on top of Naruto. Ino managed to get to her feet and with all her energy, all her anger and passion, moved back to the two males on the ground. I said get off him. Ino shouted at the top of her lungs and made a fist with her right hand. She raised it and allowed it to swing around to connect to the back of Sasuke's head. Sasuke quickly felt the blow and landed on the side of his stomach while Naruto managed to get to one knee and spit out some blood. Don't touch me, Naruto. Ino stepped back, seeing Naruto moving closer to her with one hand out. I have to go. Ino ran back over to her fallen book and picked it up with a great rush. Looking back up, she saw the person who really deserved the blow. Ino, are you okay? Temari and Tenten shouted in union, running over to Ino, who was paralyzed, looking at the person she was going to take down at this very moment. Ino, answer us. Did that creep hit you hard? Tenten put her hand on her cheek to inspect any damage. Hold on, Ino remained with her eyes locked with the green narrowed eyes, who were staring back at her with a smile attached to her face. Sakura had been watching the whole scene with a smirk to her face, and when her eyes met Ino's, the rage had taken over Ino once again. Hey Ino, Sakura managed to say as Ino stormed over to her, dropping her book and swinging a fist at Sakura's face. Sakura fell back, but Ino caught a chunk of her pink hair and forced her back up, swinging her head around and whipping her over to the ground. Tenten and Temari ran over to the blonde and tried to grab her, but Ino wasn't having that. She moved in closer to Sakura, who was down on one knee, and rammed another kick to her gut. How could you, Sakura? Ino shouted and grabbed her pink locks, forcing her up and delivering another blow to her face. Sakura managed to grab Ino's long blonde hair and force her to the ground, where now it was her turn to cause pain. Sakura slapped Ino twice before pounding her face in with fists. Sakura, stop! Tenten yelled out, seeing her blonde friend getting pounced on by Sakura. Meanwhile, Naruto was regaining his composure and looked to the left to see Ino and Sakura fighting around on the ground, Sakura with the upper hand. He looked over at the opposite direction and saw Sasuke rubbing his head on the ground. She won't listen with words, Tenten. Temari ran over to the commotion and grabbed locks of Sakura's hair, pulling it back along with her body. She forced Sakura to her back while Tenten ran over to her friend, who was in pain and agony but up to both her feet. Temari made her way around and picked up Ino's book and rushed over to the blonde and Tenten. You alright, Ino? Tenten asked the obvious, putting one arm around Ino's end while Temari eyed Sakura's moves closely. Sakura got to her feet and wiped the bit of blood on the side of her lip. She narrowed her eyes at the three and smiled evilly. You wanna know something, Ino? Sakura yelled out loud enough for everyone to hear. Naruto opened up his ears and Sasuke got to his feet. You may have caught me and Naruto in the locker room, but he didn't tell you about me and him thing in his room. Sakura shouted and everyone around gasped and looked over at the blonde male in shock. Yeah, that's right, Ino. You think you got even, but we had S and it was so good. Sakura chuckled. The words had hit an inner hard and fast, never expecting this to come out her mouth, and now here she was knowing that Naruto had betrayed her. Ino wanted to run over to Sakura and beat her some more, but Tenten and Temari held her back. How could he have done that? Ino's heart broke into a million pieces. Sakura, that's a lie and you know it. Naruto shouted back, walking over to Ino and the group while Sakura looked on amused at what she managed to cause. Ino, we didn't do that. She's lying, she's trying to destroy what we have because she's jealous. Naruto tried to reason with Ino in her face. Streams of tears rolled down her face as she stared into the eyes of a liar. You disgust me, Naruto, it's over. Ino shouted, and once again, her hand came up to meet his face into a slap that echoed around the parking lot. Tenten along with Temari's jaws were dropped down at what they had heard. It was one of those soap operas Tenten thought she would never be involved in. Seems like my work here is done. Bye, Ino, good luck with your ex-boyfriend. Sakura spat out some blood and laughed silently, turning her back on them and walking away into the distance where everyone looked on. Ino whipped the tears off her face and looked over at Tenten. We can go now, there's nothing but garbage here. Ino glared her eyes one more time at Naruto, who looked at her with sincere eyes. Let's go. Ino walked onto the sidewalk with Tenten next to her. Temari stayed a second to ask the blonde male something. You're going to slap me too? He asked. Did you really sleep with Sakura? No, I didn't, Temari. She's just lying so me and Ino could break up. Naruto looked over at the crowd fleeing into different locations. I guess she got what she wanted. Temari looked at the corner of Naruto's eyes to see they were somewhat watery with tears. She knew he was telling the truth. I believe you, Naruto. I'll talk to her, all right. Temari saw Sasuke share away like the snake he was. Don't worry, she'll believe you. I think I lost her, Temari. Sakura got to her head. Naruto's voice trembled a little bit. For the first time, he had actually felt something strong for Ino. Something that couldn't be explained, but it was definitely there, and it had all been collapsed due to Sakura's words. Naruto felt Temari wrap her arms around his torso as he finally felt the blow of Ino's words. It's over. He stood there with Temari in front of her. How could she be such a strong person and have a soft heart? Naruto had came to a point. Down his cheek came a stream of a long teardrop he had tried so hard to keep in. I lost her for good, Temari. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.